14th, 2022. We have a very long day today because we're going to be doing budget tonight, but I'd like to ask for a roll call.
Commissioner Bernard. Commissioner Kerner.
Here.
Commissioner Marino.
Here.
Commissioner McKinley.
Here.
Commissioner Sacks. Mayor Weinroth.
Here.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Here.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Sacks is excused. She's traveling. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Marino, would you please do the invocation and the pledge? Would everybody please rise?
Father, help us to be sensitive to what is happening to those around us. Make us aware of the concerns of others and guide us through the decision process that is before us today. Give us the strength and courage to do what is best for all those who come, Give us the strength and courage to do what is best for all those who come before us. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So, Madam Administrator, do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board. On page 8, we've deleted 3A1 for further staff review. On page 14, we have a revised motion for the correct title of our district park. On page 19, 3H7, we have a revised motion. On page 26, 3I7 has been moved to regular. It is now going to be 5C5. On page 53, 5H1 has been deleted for further staff review. On page 53, 5I1 is an add-on for today, and that'll complete the add and delete sheet.
All right. Commissioner Kerner?
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to the amendments as the county administrator detailed, I'd like to also move 5I1 to immediately after 5A1 and for efficiency.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Kerner to reorder the agenda. I have Vice Mayor Weiss has seconded. All in favor, all opposed. Show that as being approved 6-0. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. Do we have any items that, Commissioner McKinley?
Yes, two things, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull item 3Q1, and also if Ms. Baker or anybody has copies of the add delete sheet, we could use some up here. Thank you.
Can you clarify, please, which item you're pulling from the consent?
3Q1.
3Q1. All right. 3Q1 will be removed from the consent agenda. Anybody else have something you want to remove from the consent agenda? All right. Let me just get reorganized here for a second, please. Thank you. All right. Do we have any public comment on the consent agenda, Commissioner Kerner?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I'm going to look for a motion to approve less 3Q1. The Vice Mayor has made the motion. Commissioner Kerner has seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Show the consent agenda has been approved by a vote of 6-0. We will now take up item 3Q1. Commissioner Kerner? I'm sorry, Commissioner McKinley?
It does seem logical. It's a criminal justice issue, and those typically come from Commissioner Kerner, our resident law enforcement officer. Mr. Mayor, I don't pull this one for any other reason than just to highlight it. I want to thank the staff of the Criminal Justice Commission and also the Youth Services Department and our partners in the law enforcement and criminal justice community. This is providing trauma-informed care training and sensitivity training to our law enforcement officials. I just felt, in light of everything that seems to be going on in our world these days, this was something that we should highlight and let the community know that we take very seriously, and we're willing to put the dollars that are necessary behind these efforts to train those that come in contact with victims and situations that call for specialized training on how to handle somebody recovering from trauma. That it was the sole purpose to pull this item, was just to thank staff for all of the work that they do in this area. So with that, I'll move to, approval of item 3Q1, A, B, C, and D.
I have a second by the Vice Mayor, and again, this is certainly $150,000 that's going to be well spent. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, all opposed, I'm going to show that as a 6-0. Commissioner Bernard is back on the dais. We have that approved, and we're going to move on now to our regular agenda. Now, we reordered, let me just get reorganized here again.
5I, 5F, thank you. Page 45.
Page 45, that's what you're here for, Commissioner Kerner. Here to help. All right. We're moving which item?
5A1. 5A1.
Okay. Property appraiser, you are recognized. We are on item 5A1. This is going to be a report by our illustrious property appraiser, Dorothy Jacks. It's always great
Okay,
to
thank
see
you
you
so much.
here, and I understand you have some very good news for the county as far as the economic picture of what's happened over the last year.
Yes, well, good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be with you. As I've done in the past, I'm here to give you a short update on property values in Palm Beach County and some general thoughts about the real estate market. I also just want to quickly reflect on my office and note that we, like you, are experiencing a unique set of employment challenges with both many retirements and also, actually at the moment, some of our employees leaving for greener pastures as the market rushes up in the way it does. This always happens in these fast-moving markets. However, we're very committed to our mission to value property fairly and equitably and at market value. This was a challenge for us in 2022. However, I'm pleased to report that our hard work has paid off. The Department of Revenue recently conducted their in-depth biannual review of my office, and we are well on our way to our roll approval for 2022, with all areas passing the review with flying colors. So we breathe a heavy sigh of relief as I bring you this news in this very fast-moving market. Again, a very short slide presentation. I have just a few, I think about 6 slides. So let's start with some high-level numbers. Our market value has hit a record level again this year at over $387 billion. Last year it was $308. So just to give you a sense of the increase in value, taxable value of $251 billion. Last year that was $221. We came in, our new construction number is the highest on record at $4.3 billion. This is only slightly higher than the new construction number that was set, the former record, which was set in 2006 at $4.28 billion. I would, though, mention is I think it's interesting that the cost of construction being so much higher now than it would have been in 2006, this is probably not a record. 2006 is probably still the record just because prices were probably a lot less. But we were certainly adding a great deal of new construction to our roll then, as we are now. It's interesting to note that of that $4.3 billion in new construction, $1.2 billion of it is in the unincorporated area of Palm Beach County. Normally, we always think of the eastern half as being high growth, and of course, much of the eastern half of the county is in the cities. However, more and more, the growth of both the residential and the commercial building sector is happening to our west, the western part of the county. The percentage increase taxable going up 13.55%. I will tell you that this number will actually go up even more for the July 1 number that we're going to submit to you in about a week and a half. We are continuing to add more value to the roll to make sure that our statistics are correct and that we've met all the criteria that we have to as far as reporting value at market as of January 1st, which is Florida law throughout every county in the state. This 13.5% is a high number, but not the highest by far. In 2004, taxable values increased over 17%, and in 2005, over 23%. So just as a frame of reference. The parcel count has not increased substantially. That number is only related to when properties, large pieces of land are platted into, say, one parcel becomes 200 parcels, or a condominium is built and each unit is added to the roll. So that number doesn't increase substantially each year. And the tangible accounts, which is business personal property, has stayed pretty flat. We expect that's a lot to do with a number of businesses closed because of the pandemic, but then also a number of businesses opened, so they sort of offset each other with that. So let's go on to some graphs. You know I love my graphs. So I think this one's interesting. This is showing you market and taxable, so those two numbers we've been talking about and how they start to rise and separate, and you will see that very distinct jag going upward on the top line for this year. The difference between those two lines is exemptions and caps. So cap savings, which we have two caps in Florida, the 3% cap on homesteaded property and the 10% cap on all other property, is playing in much more significantly this year than it has in the past years because the value has been going up so much in 1 year. So everyone who might have seen, which wasn't uncommon, a 20% increase in value, even if they were homesteaded, they'll only see a 3% increase in their taxable value. If they're non-homesteaded, the 10% cap kicks in on that value for all taxing authorities except the school board. They will pay the full 20% increase on the school board millage. I will talk a little bit further about the actual breakdown and where the percentage increases come to. I do expect this to indicate that we will have a busy petition season this year. It's not unusual in markets like this to see the number of petitions, sometimes even double. Most petitions are filed by the commercial sector. Understandably, they have a lot more skin in the game. Their tax bills are usually quite a bit higher. So we are expecting that this year. It won't surprise us if those numbers go up significantly. So this is interesting too. Just shows you the market value increase, which again, market value, just value, the value that we place on your property as of January 1st each year, that 29%. Going down to 14% in taxable, again, the caps and the exemption amounts themselves. Commercial, 23%, going down to 13%. And tangible, that shift is just because some properties have their exemptions removed when they move into a higher value category. So again, residential market, I think 30%, although it seems amazing to those of us who've owned homes for a long time, that is what the market has shown us, what the 2022 market really showed us this year. So just some quick thoughts as we go into 2023. It's hard to believe we're halfway through 2022, so we already have 2 quarters of data to look at for projections for what 2023 will look like. I think probably the biggest question for you and for me and for all of us is, will the residential market continue to increase? We have already seen a slowdown in the residential transactions year over year. So as of this time last year, we are seeing less deeds actually being filed in the clerk's office, which is just telling us that the market has slowed down. They're not quite so rapid. However, we haven't seen prices reduce much yet. We're interested to see whether that happens. Usually this happens in order. First it slows down, and then the values, what people will pay starts to moderate. Again, supply and demand. The sellers start to loosen up a little bit because their inventory isn't flying off the shelves, as it were. So we'll see if the prices start to moderate. Again, This is probably a combination, the slowdown of the interest rate hikes and maybe also the summer season. Historically, this county has shown a slowdown in its market through the summer. We have more activity in the season, so that may be part of it as well. I do expect another strong new construction number in 2023. Many projects that are in the pipeline now will wrap up. We had a lot of new apartments in 2022 that came on for the 2022 roll, and we continue to have apartment complexes being built all over the county. That, again, if a project finishes by January 1st, it's added to that next year's tax roll. So things that you see that are sort of near completion right now will be added for 2023. The commercial market continues to be very strong. I know, I often mention 70% of our value is residential, but the commercial market is posting big numbers when it comes to transactions. A lot of large projects that we know about, that we recognize, places like the Innovation Campus in Boca Raton changed hands last year. We have had a number of downtown office towers change hands. These are big ticket properties that people are paying really surprisingly high prices for. And interestingly, even in that apartment sector that is we're all watching, there's a lot of transaction happening before things even begin to rent. So somebody will build an apartment tower and then they will turn around and sell it before it even begins having people living in it. So there's definitely some sort of a market phenomenon happening with transactions in real estate, especially in apartment complexes. And of course, hotels and warehousing is also continuing to be strong. And so none of us can really predict exactly what will happen. I hope I don't leave today and I get completely proven wrong in the next few days and the market takes some enormous crash. But I don't know that it will. I think if there is going to be a reasonable accommodation or reduction in pricing, especially residential pricing, it will probably happen slowly over the next course of the next few months. And we'll see what happens. And then, of course, we have the season coming again. So with that, I'm sorry to leave you with just sort of some big question marks, but I am more than happy to answer some questions. I will tell you that we have submitted our budget for the year, and we await to hear if you have any questions about that. We are continuing to invest in technology in our office. We have reduced the staff. We don't fill all the positions that we lose. We really look for opportunities to use some really advanced tools that are now available to us to do modeling on properties, really using data analytics as opposed to people necessarily. So there's a silver lining to the great retirement that's happening. It's just keeping up with that trend and knowing sort of the middle ground is always the tough part, but I'm sure you see that as well. And with that, I'll say thank you and happy to answer some questions.
Very good, Ms. Jacks. Thank you so much for the presentation. Things look very, very rosy out there, at least if you own real estate right now. Commissioner McKinley, you're recognized.
Just a quick thank you, Ms. Jacks, for your professionalism and your office's assistance constantly to all of our offices. For all of those calls we forward over to you when people yell at us. It's like the millage rate has not increased, your property value has gone up, and we refer a lot of calls to your office with questions about how property is valued. And your staff is very responsive and very professional, and just want to thank you. And thank you for your presentation today. I appreciate it. I do worry the higher these property values go up, when you're talking about a 29%, 30% increase in property values, it's getting harder and harder for our low and middle class families to live in our community. And it sounds like we may see some relief, but not for a while. That's frustrating, but not your fault. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Vice Mayor Weiss, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Dorothy, and I'm sorry, Ms. Jacks. But a couple questions for you. In terms of the inequality, if you will, of increased property values, are there silver linings, not probably the right word, but are there areas of the county that have not had, 30% increases where, pricing has moderated? And if so, can you identify where those are?
I wish I could say something more positive, but no, I don't know that there are areas of the county that have not seen increases. The sort of the strange dynamic of the fact that affordable property is actually going up faster because it's affordable. There's that's always been kind of a interesting thing. To Commissioner McKinley's issue, I mean, that's the tough part, is finding the affordability factor in Palm Beach County. There are still places, I would say actually it's more property types. Townhomes, certainly, townhomes are probably the best investment right now. There's still affordable townhomes. There's still affordable condominiums to some extent if you don't need to look at the water or live downtown. But it's, single-family homes are just in high demand. Certainly, it's not just people who are coming here from the north. It's also people who are looking for a bigger home because they now work from home and they want more space. And a home is what they're thinking. They want to live the Florida dream and enjoy the sunshine and be outside in their own yard and so forth. But so the single family market pretty much across the board, across the county, is increasing the most. I think there's still something to be said for townhomes and condominiums in the right location. Certainly the affordable communities in the central part of the county, as traffic becomes more of an issue and just people, there's still some places to go there, but they're seeing increases because they're affordable. And of course the inequity of the tax system, that one neighbor is paying so much more than the next because they bought more recently, is really completely attributable to the caps. The caps have been a blessing and a curse. They're wonderful if you're under the cap. They're not so wonderful if you've just bought a home and you've just come here or you just decided to live here and you have to start at a market value and then begin getting your own cap. I often say, you just got to wait till the neighbor who's got the lowest taxes sells, and then that person's going to be paying the highest taxes. And this is the problem with caps. They're good, but they also cause a lot of inequity in neighborhoods especially. But even the heavier impact on commercial property who have the 10 cap, again, only on the non-school board millage rates, they're paying a much more sizable property tax sum compared to residential properties in Florida. And that's another reason why we probably get more petitions from them as well.
And does that include the apartments as well? Are they under the same 10% cap except for the school board?
They are. So a owner of a building or an apartment complex, their tax bill can increase up to 10% each year. And of course, the next year we are required to recapture another 10%. So say in this crazy market they went up 30%, well, we're going to get 10% this year, 10% next year, and 10% the year after. They're not it's much faster that cap goes away than it might necessarily for a homesteaded property, which is only at 3%. I will note that every homesteader will pay 3% higher right away because of the cap this year. The cap has only been 3% 7 out of the last 25 years. It's always been lower than that. So 3% will be what everyone sees unless the millage rates are reduced. I mean, that is, of course, the other half of the equation. My friend and mentor, Pedro Garcia in Miami-Dade County, who's the property appraiser there, has made that point. One thing you may want to consider is reducing the millage 3% to make up for the 3% that they're going to see automatically, everyone is going to see, every homesteader is going to see a 3% increase in their taxes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Kerner?
Yes, Mayor, and I see we have other speakers after me, but I just wanted to thank the property appraiser for your public service and the due diligence and great work that your office does. It's been a pleasure. I'm sure the mayor will reiterate that working with the Value Adjustment Board staff and your appraisers. And with that, I would just like to make a motion to receive and file on 5A1.
I have a motion to receive and file by Commissioner Kerner, second by Commissioner Marino, and Commissioner Bernard, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Jacks, thank you for being here and for providing us this update. You had mentioned the caps. I think in some of the areas in my district, I've received phone calls from some of the residents where, their property taxes are about, let's say, $6,000 or $7,000, and the neighbors around them, because they've had their homes longer, their property taxes, I looked around, some of them are like $900, $1,200, and some of the homes are even bigger than theirs. Like, what can be done? Is there?
Again, it is all the dynamic of the cap. And I think if the legislature wanted to address it, one thing that could be done is the cap is the change in the consumer price index or 3%, whichever is less. That's the law. If they removed the 3% and allowed it to go to the change in the consumer price index, this year it's 7%. So you see, you'd have that. You'd have everybody go up more than just that 3%. But there's definitely a benefit to the longer you've owned your home. There's a benefit now called portability, where you can take some of your cap accrued savings from one house and move it to another. But it tends to not be as big a savings as most people think, and that's mainly because people who are moving around a lot are not the folks who've lived in their homes for 25 years. Usually those folks are staying in their homes. But people who move around a lot, you're only getting the accrued portability amount from the prior home. So if you only stayed there for 3 years, it may not have been very much. But yes, absolutely. I mean, the dynamic you're seeing is everywhere, every property, every type, every neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Marino?
Thank you. And as a retired real estate broker, just to let everyone know that when somebody is buying a new home here, and if they're new coming into the area, they are actually signing a document that says we're aware that our taxes are going to go up. We're aware of the taxes that are being paid by the previous owner, and that will not be the taxes we pay because the new valuation of the house. So I just want to put that out there because it's not a surprise for new homeowners what their taxes will be. And homeowners here that have been in their homes for a long time are being rewarded for the fact that they're staying in their homes for a long time. But they have the ability, if they do sell that home that they've been in for a long time, they can take the savings that they accrued and apply those savings to the new home that they purchased. So when we do have new homeowners, new residents coming in that are new to the state of Florida or new to Palm Beach County, they are all made aware of the changes that they will be paying in their taxes because taxes are collected in arrears. Thank you.
Okay, just a few final comments. I mean, obviously, this is a preamble to our conversation tonight where we're going to be discussing the budget, and these numbers are going to be very important to us. One thing I did notice, and we've all had our update from staff to discuss assumptions that we're using to arrive at a budget tonight, and I noticed that the assumptions that we were presented with during our update was a 13.3% increase in values, and I see that you're now looking at a 13.55 increase. I'm wondering if you see that number continuing to rise before the point at which you're going to lock down the values of the property here in Palm Beach County.
Yes, I do. I can't speak to exactly how much more. But, and I know Ms. Baker can explain all of this because she used to work with me in the budget section years ago, but Right now, when you begin your assumptions, we are in the estimates phase, which we've provided an estimate to all taxing authorities. July 1 begins day 1 of the 100-day cycle, and that's the trim cycle. And that's when we provide you with the final preliminary number. So that's the number you budget based on. And that's both a number for taxable value that you're going to tax against and a number for new construction that you can remove in order to calculate your rollback and so forth. But the number, the 13.3, which I know was an assumption prior to estimates, and the 13.55, which was the estimates number, will go up. I can't tell you how much right now. We're still working on it, honestly. It's the 14th of the month, and we'll probably keep fine-tuning our number for another week at least, and then we'll be giving out those numbers.
Do you have an educated guess?
I would suspect you'll get another percentage point. You may get a bit more or a bit less than that. See, you got that out of me, Mayor. But no, you may get another percentage point, yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you another question. One of the other assumptions that we're dealing with is the average value of a residence here in the county. And obviously, as you stated, there's been a tremendous uptick in the values, and obviously that doesn't affect someone who is staying in their home for 20 years, but we obviously have had a lot of people moving around. We have, as a proposed assumption, $375,000 as far as an average value in this county. Is that a number that you see as being in the right neighborhood, or do you see that number being a little bit shy of what would be the average today?
I think that's probably a fair number. There's a lot of things that go into averages. It's such a hard thing to do when you think about a condominium in Century Village selling for maybe $100,000 or possibly less to a home on Palm Beach selling for $100 million. I mean, it's very hard to come up with a sort of average, but I think if you think about the sort of everyday, gal in Palm Beach County, that's probably a reasonable number when you take all those into account. I know the realtors' numbers are quite a bit higher than that. But they are also working from transactions as opposed to from a value, assessed value. They're looking at transactions over time and coming up with those numbers, which are a fair bit higher. But I think 375 is probably conservative, but in the ballpark.
Okay, very good. Well, and again, like Commissioner Kerner said, I have the privilege of also serving on the VAB, and we certainly appreciate your professionalism as we review the cases that come before us. We're always very satisfied that you're giving this a great deal of your attention and doing it equitably, and we thank you for what you do. And as you said, you're not the one who sets the millage. That will be us up here, and all you're doing is setting value, and we appreciate you doing that in an equitable fashion. And seeing no further comments, we thank you very much, and we're going to call a vote on the motion to receive and file. All in favor? All opposed? That's been accepted 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Commissioner Kerner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. At your discretion, or at your direction, rather, I'd like to reorder the agenda. The motion will be to reorder the agenda to bring 5G1 up now and then 5I1.
Very good. And again, just for those people who are wondering what's going on here, we have a group of our first responders here, and we would like to get them back to work as soon as possible. So we will move 5G1. Can I have a second for that? I have Vice Mayor Weiss has made a second. All in favor, all opposed. 5G1 will now be the next item we address, and we will have former Chief Duren bring the matter before us. And I see Chief Kennedy is going to be right here and shortstop you.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board. Before you in 5G1 is a recommendation for approval of a resolution authorizing the conveyance and transfer of title of an engine to the School District of Palm Beach County in support of the Palm Beach Lakes Community High School Fire Academy. I'm joined at a distance by Chief Patrick Kennedy and Assistant Chief Dave Woodside, who have a brief presentation for you if you so request.
I think we'll take advantage of that, since we should be enjoying the fact that we are supporting the education of these students with real equipment. So, Chief Kennedy, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Baker, thank you for this day. This is a great opportunity for us. We've, just to explain this team behind us, when we heard there was a need, we couldn't go fast enough. And so it took this team back here, between our recruitment, our logistics, and our operations, that are ready to get these folks that are being trained at Palm Beach Lakes and our other school ready and out in the field. So with this opportunity, we've had a partnership with Palm Beach Lakes High School, and we've also been in support of them. And we can't help but recognize that there's men and women that are out there representing, which are the instructors, and they're representing the fire service, and they're giving an exposure to these young students far beyond what most people get to see at a very early age. And we are certain that those skills are going to serve them later in life, no matter what path they take. We should see an engine up here in a minute, and that engine is the one that we're donating to the school. This gives them an opportunity to train for their Fire 1 and become ready to go on to Fire 2, or like I said, they just have the opportunity to be physically fit, mentally fit, and know what the fire service represents. We're so thankful for your support. If we didn't have new engines, we wouldn't have old engines to donate. And we are certain that it's going to a great home for a great purpose. Is there any questions you have for us?
I have Commissioner McKinley would like to.
I have a comment, so I'll wait till you get through questions first.
Okay, Commissioner Kern, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So this donation is part of a larger program that has been instituted into, I believe, 2 of our high schools in the county. What has been what's your evaluation of the success of the program, and what are some highlights or high points?
So Palm Beach County Fire Rescue is on the periphery with some of that support in terms of the instructors and some people from our organization, and then equipment. And we are diving in a little bit more head first in the last year or two to give additional support. We do know that I believe there was 12 to 13 children between both programs to graduate from the Fire 1, which is a step before they would go to Fire 2, which would be what we represent up here, which is Fire 2.
Thank you.
Okay, I would point out, according to the summary that staff has presented us, that there's a de minimis value to this engine as far as the fire district MSTU, but it certainly has a great value to the 33 students who are going to have the ability to use this engine in their training.
That's correct.
Commissioner McKinley?
Yes, first I'll go ahead for purposes of discussion and move approval of item 5G1.
I have a motion by Commissioner McKinley, a second by Commissioner Marino.
And then let me just add, I never miss an opportunity to thank Fire Rescue for the leadership skills that they instilled in my son as a 4-year participant in the Fire Rescue Cadet Program. I only wish that his high school had this opportunity. I think this is wonderful what you do for the kids, and it's so much more than what they learn in these classes. It's the mentors that they receive. I'm very certain that my son's mentor, who is Drew Rayburn over at Station 34, kept him out of a lot of trouble. It was another adult male that he was able to have conversations with that sometimes maybe he wasn't comfortable having conversations with his mother. I know that even when he went off to college at Florida State, and I hoped he would be a firefighter, but he wants to be a chef. And I told him, like, you can do both. They need cooks in the firehouse, but I'm not having luck with that. Maybe, he's only 24, so maybe he'll come around. But even when he went up to Florida State, whenever Drew was in Tallahassee, he reached out and had dinner with him or coffee and checked in with him. But I think the most impactful thing I'd like to share is one of the ride-alongs that he did, and I've told this story a few times, was a response to an overdose. And I can remember sitting in the living room right when he graduated, and a bunch of his classmates and my daughters, and they were younger, and their classmates were at the house. And I was listening, eavesdropping on a conversation all the kids were having in the other room. And he was sharing with those students what he saw and what he learned from that overdose call. And I am positive that that experience and him sharing that story kept some of those kids from experimenting with drugs that they have no business experimenting with. So what you are doing is not only training the next generation of fire rescue, first responders and public servants and heroes, but you are very much impacting the life decisions that our young adults are making in our community and probably saving lives in the long run. So I am so happy to support this item and hope that we can expand this opportunity to other schools across the county. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I thank you and your command staff for coming here today. All in favor of the motion? All opposed? We have a unanimous approval of this motion, 6-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to 5I1, and this is going to spotlight a darker part of our history, but a way that we're going to ensure that we don't forget what happened in the past. Dorit, I think you are going to present this.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning to the board and Administrator Baker. Sam Dortmiller, Assistant County Administrator, but also the Palm Beach County, your board liaison to the Palm Beach County Remembrance Project. And with me is Jennifer Cirillo. Jennifer is the Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation. And when Ms. Baker handed this project to me, I thought it was going to be a very long process, and I need a co-pilot. And the best thing I could have done was ask Eric to have Jennifer be my co-pilot, and I want to thank her so much. She has been a tremendous help in moving this project along. So before you this morning, we have a resolution, and this resolution is in 3 parts, okay? It first recognizes the significance of the passage of the United States House of Representatives Bill number 55, known as the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, named after 14-year-old Emmett Till, who was lynched in Mississippi in 1955. This sparked national and international outrage. The act was signed into law on March 29, 2022, and makes lynching a federal hate crime. It also recognizes that on August 17, 2021, this existing board, approved Juneteenth as a formal observed county holiday. It also recognizes that this board directed administration to work with the Equal Justice Initiative, that's Brian Stevens' organization in Montgomery, Alabama, to recognize the 2 known individuals who were lynched in Palm Beach County. Henry Simmons in West Palm Beach, that was in 1923, and Sam Nelson in 1927 in Delray Beach. And with an ultimate goal of retrieving a replica monument which resides in Montgomery, Alabama, at the Legacy Museum. As part of this process, it required community participation, and it led to the creation of the Palm Beach County Community Remembrance Coalition, which is comprised of diverse community leaders and community members. The coalition has been partnering with EGI and has received approval from EGI for the next step, which is the soil collection ceremony for Sam Nelson. The Palm Beach County Community Remembrance Coalition will be holding a soil collection ceremony for Sam Nelson on June 18, 2022, during the Juneteenth event at Pompey Park in partnership with the county, the City of Delray Beach, the Equal Justice Initiative, and the Spady Cultural Heritage Museum. As part of the preparation for this ceremony, last Saturday, the coalition members participated in a soil collection in Delray Beach, and we have a short clip that we would like to share with you on what happened on Saturday. And while they're queuing that up, we have some of the members of the coalition with us today. Those were the proclamation that was done up there. So Jennifer, so those are members of the coalition. We have some of them in the audience with us. If you don't mind, stand. I think we have Josephine Gahn for the Jewish Federation, Mark Schneider from the ACLU, Charlene Farrington from Spady Museum. So that is preparation for the soil ceremony on Saturday. And Jennifer, you want to wrap it up?
Yes, thank you, Dorit. So as Dorit mentioned, we invite the public to join us at Pompey Park this coming Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for a soil collection ceremony for Mr. Sam Nelson, who was lynched on September 26th and overnight into the 27th in 1926. So we do have some jars that the Equal Justice Initiative, and we've been working very closely with Sion Blackwell from EJI, who I know is tuning in remotely today. They sent us these jars, and we will, the public will participate in filling them this Saturday. We have several jars, but one of them will be returned to the Legacy Museum to be on display in Montgomery, Alabama at the Equal Justice Initiative. So again, we encourage you all to come and participate this Saturday with us at 10:30 at Pompey Park in Delray Beach. Thank you.
And credit to Mark Schneider, he's in the audience. He has taken custody of the soil, and it has to be cured and dried, and his family, I think his wife there, is doing that process right now as we speak. So thanks to Mark and Charlene and others.
Very
And
good.
also Mayor, the Commissioner Shirley Johnson from Delray Beach has been a very good partner in getting this done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Schneider, I see you have a card. Would you like to come forward and?
Yes, Commissioners. I want to thank you for sponsoring this project because it seems to me very important that both on a national level with the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill and on the local level with you, the County Commission, supporting this effort, that we recognize the harm that was done in the past to the Black community and reach out a hand in contrition and acknowledgement of the terror that they felt. And it's very important, it seems to me, that this be a county effort because they will understand that the community is reaching out to them. And that's why it's been so important to me that you have supported this project. So I want to thank you all.
Thank you very much for your efforts in this, and certainly we as a county will always be acknowledging our past and also remembering what occurred. Vice Mayor Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank staff, and I want to thank members of this coalition that have come together to move this project forward. I know there's challenges that you all have dealt with and overcome, and there's continual challenges to try and move it forward, but it is being moved forward I think in a very timely way. as was already said, and not to dwell on it, but it is important to remember where we've come from and to give us a direction of where we want to go and how, how our community is an inclusive community for everybody. And we are a diverse community, but we are an inclusive community. So thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you all on Saturday.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
And then I'd like to move this resolution as well.
All right, so Vice Mayor Weiss is going to make the resolution. It'll be seconded by Commissioner Bernard. And Commissioner Bernard, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just want to thank our administrator, Virginia Baker, for assigning this project to Dorrit and Jennifer and the whole county staff. I know this was initially not knowing where this was going to lead, and the entire community remembrance project. And also want to thank the community, Commissioner Johnson, and everyone who participated in this event. And I look forward to attending this Saturday. And also want to thank our Vice Mayor, Greg Weiss. This is also an important issue that you've been working on. And so we've been teaming to work on this. And so really excited that we're continuing to recognize our history. So in that way, we can continue to make Palm Beach County a better community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, all opposed, show that as being approved unanimously, 6-0. Thank you very much. All right, we are now going to go back to 5B1, and this is going to be a presentation on 211 Palm Beach Treasure Coast. And Mr. Duran, you are front and center. For what? All right, we just have a little book housekeeping here. All right, so Commissioner Kerner, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In an abundance of caution, I'd like to make restate the motion to amend the agenda to move 5G1, which we just took up, before 5I1. So it'll go 5G1, 5I1.
And I'm going to have a second by Commissioner Marino. All in favor, all opposed. That's been approved 6-0 again. Okay. We're going to move forward now. Please present.
Good morning again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board. 5B1 is a recommendation from staff to receive and file a presentation regarding 211 Palm Beach Treasure Coast. With me is Community Services Director James Green, as well as Assistant Director Taruna Mahorta. Also, Sharon LaRue, President and CEO of 211, who with the board's approval would like to provide a brief presentation regarding 211 today and into the future, including information on the new crisis helpline 988.
Very good. Sharon, it's always good to see you, and I know the great things that you're doing, so let's have a brief presentation.
Thanks so much, Mayor.
Push your button so we can all hear you.
Thank you so much, Mayor, commissioners, and county staff. Thank you for that introduction and for your time. We actually do have a lot to cover today, so what I'm going to do is talk fast. And I am available for questions after or another time. Let me make sure I know how to use my clicker. All right, just by way of background, we do imagine a community where everyone in crisis gets the help and support that they need. We want to make sure that all of you and anyone listening know that they can reach out to us at any time that they need us in a variety of ways, calling or texting or chatting, and that our staff are highly trained and credentialed to do this work. 211 is really the central component in Palm Beach County's mental health and social services system. So you have here a little graphic of how we are the central access point and connecting people to programming that we provide directly, as well as to many, many, many community partners, many of whom I see with us here this morning. People call, as you know, 211 for a variety of reasons. So it may be information, crisis support, or other services that are needed. And these are some of the things, just by way of introduction, of what our staff may hear. So people say things like, is my child normal? Is this okay? I just lost my job. There's no food in the house. All the way up to and including, people do call us when they say, we don't want to wake up in the morning. So our staff, in addition to answering 211, which everyone here knows, we also answer a number of other lines, including the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and that's what I'm going to talk about most with my time this morning. But additionally, we have some other partners as well as answering for Palm Beach County's Victim Services Line. We have advocacy programs where we can provide some additional support for callers that need that extra help and are part of a vulnerable population. And of course, I like to mention that we do have the resource directory, which is continually updated and available online all the time. All right, so now the meat of the presentation is some troubling background information, which you may be familiar with already. But prior to the pandemic, we were seeing some troubling trends around suicide and suicidal deaths. So those trends were showing that over the 15-year period prior, suicide rates were going up in every single demographic. Palm Beach County has made a number of efforts to try to stem this tide and be very proactive and should be commended for that. At the same time, then we were hit with the pandemic. So I have shared with you previously, and this data is from early in the pandemic, but the pandemic, as you might imagine, did not make this situation easier for our residents and our community. So a high percentage of people are telling us that they're struggling with mental health issues. The rate of suicidal thoughts went up significantly. We know that substance use went up, and research suggests that really the peak problems are a year to a year and a half post-event, and I don't think any of us expected that this event would be lingering quite so long. So these are some challenging dynamics to be aware of. We are seeing in the local data that there is reason to be concerned. The most recent data from the Palm Beach County Medical Examiner's Office did show that between 2021 and 2020, the suicide rate went up 33%. So again, I want to commend your leadership, Palm Beach County staff, and our partners for all of the efforts that have been made in addressing mental health concerns. I think that in order to save time, what we should do is have another presentation on some of those efforts a different day, but I did want to acknowledge them. All right, again, in addition to being at the center of the Health and Human Services system, we're at the center of the mental health system. So these are some of the things that we may be doing as people reach out to us. So 988, as I mentioned, we are already answering for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number. There's a lot of confusion around the news about 988 because a lot of people are calling it new. While the number is new, the suicide prevention line and the infrastructure there is not at all new. So we should all be reassured to be reminded that our team and our infrastructure and our systems already are here, because there is a lot in the media that sounds very panicky. And we'll talk a little bit more about that momentarily. So, but for background, the FCC did designate 988 as the national suicide prevention number, and they have mandated that that be operational as of July. So it's just a few weeks away. If I were voting on it, I wouldn't have suggested we unroll this during a pandemic, but this is the plan, and it will be, in fact, going live very shortly. But for Palm Beach County residents, they can still dial 211. The long 10-digit number will still be operational, or people can dial 988. Now, for some concerning news that they gave us. Initially, when this was brought to my attention, it was my thought that because the system already exists, that the transition would be seamless, but they asked us to participate on a statewide task force, and Lifeline provided some data to the State Department of Children and Families, who then provided it to all of the 12 local crisis centers. That suggests that we should be expecting the volume on the Lifeline, the local volume of calls, to go up drastically. The numbers that they're providing to me suggest that our call volume could increase on the Lifeline from 10,000 a year, which it is now, to anywhere between 48,000 and 98,000 year one. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that and about what we're doing to prepare. If you extrapolate that out, if you choose the midpoint on that and you project out 5 years, then you're looking at very significant increases all the way up to potentially a couple of 100,000 local calls coming in on that line. Now, what have we been doing to prepare for this, other than going gray, working long hours? We have been participating in a statewide task force, as mentioned. We've also been participating in a local task force, which I think would be worthwhile to have come before you and provide a little more detail on that. The state also wants to work with our first responders and has acknowledged that first responders have an unacceptably high death rate from suicide. So the state's rolling out a first responder helpline and has asked that the 211 support that line. So locally, we will be doing that as well and are adding some staffing around that with some statewide funding support. Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is always very proactive and has a new grant that we're participating in and partnering in as well. We've ramped up our ability to do local crisis chats and texts. And just so that you understand this crisis chat, I know some age groups feel like no one would reach out on text or chat if they were in trouble, but they do. And more the younger demographics want to communicate that way. So our team is able to address that locally. We also are working with Palm Beach County piloting access to your health and human services system so that when people call us, we can have some staff that can provide updates on those services. So we're working together to try to make the services as streamlined as we possibly can. And because this is a volatile situation and we're really unclear what the rollout will look like ultimately, we've been very aggressive in going after some national projects so that we can add to our staffing complement as well as the resources coming into the center so that we can be ready for whatever comes. So this is just to share with you that our team has a broad level of support in addition to the county, Children's Services Council, Sheriff's Office, United Ways, many others. And we have a new partnership with the Healthcare District who is funding one additional position to help us address the 988 volume increase that's expected. And a returning partner, the Community Foundation, is also providing some support. All right, just to share with you what all of these changes mean to our team, which I have historically said is a very small team. It's a small and growing team. With all of these changes and project additions, we're looking at increasing our staff complement by on the ballpark of 32 people. Many of them have already been hired since I created this chart, but about 10 to 12 still need to be hired. And like everyone who's mentioned the great retirement and great resignation, we are finding it difficult to hire and retain those new people that we're bringing on board. So it is a challenge on top of a challenge. All right. And we wanted to just at least make you aware that we are, before the pandemic and these new project growth, we had outgrown our building. The chief and Mr. Green visited recently and saw that. Some of you have visited. You know that we've got 3 people in offices that were made for 1. It's very challenging, and the building has outlived its useful life. So we are looking at what to do about that, and we are happy that we've been able to have some conversations with county staff about the need, and we will be coming to you with some appropriations requests and ask for your support as we write those requests. So wanted to make you aware of that. And in summary, again, we are free and confidential, and we just wanted to make you aware that so much is happening in this space. I really talked so very fast. So I am available if you do have questions about this.
Very good. Thank you for that presentation. I have a couple of questions for you, and I see a couple more lights just popped while I was thinking about my questions. What are our friends to the south doing as far as the suicide prevention line? I mean, this is not a county, this is not county staff. This is a separate organization that is now being put into service to man the new 988 Lifeline. What are they doing, let's say, in Broward or Miami-Dade? Are they using county staff, or
No.
is it the same relationship?
No. Let me clarify the point. So 988 is just the new number. It is not actually creating any new infrastructure. It's using our existing crisis lines. So to answer your question, we're participating on a state task force that includes all of the crisis lines in Florida that currently answer Lifeline, and all of those crisis centers, including us, will continue to answer Lifeline. It happens that in the state of Florida, most of those lines, 10 of the 12, are run by 211s. So our partner to the south, 211 Broward, is sitting right next to me on the task force, and we are often texting one another in excitement and frustration, depending on what's happening. So we're all collaborating on how we roll this out in the most seamless way possible, but we're all challenged with the timing. And what we are trying to do is expand our staffing complement. I should have specified with our partners that our managing entity, Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, is providing a significant funding allocation, and federal dollars are coming to the state and then to the managing entity to support this effort. Not coming as soon as we would have liked to prepare far enough ahead, but will be coming in the coming year and will help us add to our staff complement. So just a lot of moving parts.
I'm just wondering why they believe that there's going to be such a tremendous increase in volume. You've been you're at the other end of the phone when
Yes.
people dial 1-800 for the suicide prevention lifeline now, so they can reach you several ways. How is 988 going to change the dynamic of the number of people that are going to be reaching out? What is their hypothesis?
So a number of things, and they issued a research paper to talk about that. Unfortunately, it was a little bit convoluted, so when you first looked at it, you really had to do some math before you saw the true impact. But what they did is they looked at other countries that implemented a 3-digit number and what the increase in volume was like with that. They have a vision that people should call 988 nationally when they have a mental health concern instead of 911. So there is a thought that some volume will come over to 988 that had previously been answered by the 911 operators. There is also a belief that because the number is easier to remember, that more people will dial it. And there is the thought, according to them, that there is a plan to market the number in a different way than has ever been marketed before. I did just hear today that they are slowing down some of the marketing plans at our urging. We want everyone to know about it, but at the same time, we want to be ready. So, but even without the marketing, we're finding that news outlets. So there was an article in Slate this morning that people have been emailing me. So it's been in the New York Times. There is a significant media awareness around this new number.
How do you ensure a call that really should be handled by 911 and has come to your operators is efficiently transferred so that the time is not lost for first responders to be able to respond to the emergency?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'd love to have more conversation with you offline about that. But we are very fortunate to have very close relationships with all of our law enforcement partners. We sit on task forces together, and part of the grant that I mentioned here is going to actually help us convene a committee so that we make sure that our staff and their staff are always aligned. In fact, we even participate in training for some of the 911 teams at different points. So we, if it's necessary to engage 911, we do that directly.
Does that require you to make a phone call, or you do have some sort of
It does, no, yeah.
You have an access to make a direct contact with them?
We would make a phone call.
You'd make a phone call. All right, that might be something that needs to be at least reviewed as far as that kind of a handoff, especially if calls are going to be increasing dramatically. Can you just circle back to the funding sources that you have right now? How are you financing your operation?
So we are fortunate and challenged to have a very broad spectrum of funding. We probably have on the ballpark of 50 different funding partners. The challenges are, of course, with reporting and applying. Almost all of them require that we apply every single year and report regularly on many things. But the top partners include 5 county governments, 6 United Ways, 3 Children's Services Councils, our managing entity, and now through some of these projects, we have some funding directly from the state. So those are our top partners.
And I'm assuming that you have a capital campaign that you're starting so that you can find new digs for your personnel?
We are just beginning to embark on the quiet phase of the capital campaign. So we're laying some groundwork to launch a capital campaign, yes.
Very good. Commissioner McKinley?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that there were federal dollars that are coming as a result of this National Suicide Hotline Designation Act of 2020. Hate to see an unfunded mandate. Do you have any idea how much you will receive?
We have been asking that question for an entire year, and as of today, I'm still not sure. And so you can imagine that that's made it impossible to actually do the hiring that's necessary, but that's part of why part of our strategy was to aggressively go after some other grants with local partners, as well as some new project opportunities that will allow us, that have allowed us to ramp up our hiring very significantly. And once hired and trained, these staff can be deployed in a variety of ways.
And how many counties does Palm Beach and Treasure Coast 211 serve?
5.
And what counties are those?
Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, Okeechobee, and Indian River.
So those federal dollars, are they by county or are they just by?
The way that it has been rolled out right now is the federal dollars came to the state. And the state is pushing out those dollars through the Department of Children and Families, which is pushing them out through the managing entities, the regional managing entity. Our regional managing entity covers all 5 counties that we serve.
And are they doing it with any sort of formula in mind, or they just?
Well,
Not gonna
I
say
was literally on a meeting yesterday where we were told that our managing entities just got the allocation themselves, so I have not heard back from them yet what the formula will be, how they roll
And
it
I
out.
assume that the pass-through goes from the federal to the state, and the state takes off their administrative cost off the top, then it goes to CEFBA, they take off their administrative costs off the top, and then you get what's left over?
I can't speak to that.
I'm looking at your call volume increases are estimated to go up to close to 100,000 calls.
Yes.
We've got 12 crisis call centers across the state of Florida.
Correct.
Even just at a resident population of estimated 21 million, that's 1.75 million people that each of
Right.
those 12 call centers serves. We know that a lot of calls come in from tourists, which we see in the millions across the state of Florida. Is anybody having a conversation about adding call centers to the state? Because 12 seems like a very low number.
No, in fact, some states are going with a statewide system. Some states already have one statewide system. And what happens is every time you add a center, similar to your comments about how when something is passed through, there's an administrative process at each stage. Well, each of our centers have to be accredited. We have to be accredited by 3 different bodies, have technology, very expensive phone systems, a building, a facility. So most of the conversation is about expanding the capacity of each call center that exists.
Just seems to me that we should be adding to our federal and our state legislative agenda requests to increase the number of call centers available in Florida. That's a huge volume. What are the other 4 counties in our region contributing to the cost of 211?
So all of the counties contribute, I would say, at a roughly proportional share based on the population and volume.
Well, per capita, where are you seeing the most calls come from?
Palm Beach County.
Okay. Yeah, that's just frustrating because we can't keep building bigger and bigger buildings. At some point, we need to start divvying up the work, and I think that adding call centers seems to be the more reasonable way to do that. Anyway, and then I had one other thought. It's escaping my brain at the moment. It'll come back to me, and I'll press my light again.
Well, Commissioner, if I may add, you asked how other locations are doing it, and some states are doing. A number of states are looking at a fee on cell phone calls, similar to 911.
That's actually the thought that
I was
had.
wondering if that's where you were going with it. So It is certainly my opinion that that would be a fantastic revenue source and seems to make a lot of sense, but I am told that the appetite in Florida is not here for it, and it's really a non-starter.
Well,
So,
we have a fee that's already assessed on telephone bills for 911,
Yes.
on 911
Correct.
services. Yeah, that seems like a more reasonable way to do it.
I would agree.
Okay. I want to thank Chief Duran and staff. This was a presentation that was given to us at National Association of Counties, their most recent board meeting. And I reached out to them from that board meeting saying we needed this update. So thank you for getting this to us so quickly.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if we've done a motion, but I'll do a motion to receive and file this presentation. And
I have a second by Vice Mayor Weiss. We're going to have a couple of cards. We're going to hear from our residents. Did you have any other comments? Yeah.
Sharon, thank you very much for the presentation. So when someone calls 988, who's on the other line? I just want to make sure.
Us. So I cut a slide that I should have kept in here that really is a graphic about how it works. So when people dial the 10-digit number now, and when they dial 988, they get the national phone system that manages that line. And it is routed through technology to the one. There's so that people don't get bounced around, there's one identified center for that caller. So it's sent to that call center. If that call center cannot answer it, so Commissioner McKinley, this may help some of your questions as well. If that call center cannot answer it, it is bounced to a national backup. So there are national backup centers, and that is one of the new projects that we went after for chat to be able to do, which is part of how we're increasing our staffing complement. So there is a backup network available, but our team is available, and our team answers, and our team are the ones who are trained to do the suicidal de-escalation. And we get right now about an average of 10. Not everyone who calls that number is suicide-related, but some people do call 211 with suicide-related calls. So right now it's about 10,000 suicide-related calls a year.
Well, thanks for the update, and I'm sure we'll have to have a further conversation in the future on this. Thank you very much, Commissioner McKinley, for bringing this. Sharon and I, we served on the board of 211 at some point when I was young, and so now it's great to see you as the president and CEO of the organization, and whatever that we can do to assist. Look forward to having a further conversation.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Before I get to Vice Mayor Weiss, Chief, I'm concerned that we have an NGO basically doing this, which they're doing very well, but I'm concerned about the transfer of calls where it's going to be necessary for the county to jump in and send firefighters or first responders to a situation. If they're getting 10,000 calls a year for suicides, you have to expect some percentage of them are going to require immediate attention. And we're now hearing not only are the calls being received at their local address, but also a national phone number if they need to be backed up. And I'm worried that it may create delays in our ability to respond to an emergency situation. And I'm not sure what kind of a relationship has been created to bridge the communication. I'm not at all sure that just having the 211 operator pick up the phone and dial 911 to now say, I have a problem here that you need to respond to, is effective. And that's my impression right now, that we need to be looking at this as a county if this is going to hamper our ability to respond effectively to an emergency.
Mayor, I'm glad you highlighted that point, and that's something we certainly need to look into, and I'll definitely fully engage with Sharon to find out just how many calls they have where they have to turn around and dial 911, whether it be EMS or whether it be the sheriff's office, and see just how significant that problem is, and we'll certainly work through it to create a better situation.
Yeah, I just, and I don't say that there's anything wrong with what you're doing. I need to feel that we have a smoother transition of a call that you quickly identify as one that needs something that you're not able to provide in counseling.
I understand, and Mayor, if I may, I appreciate the comments. I do want to reiterate that a lot of what our staff are trained to do is de-escalate. And so, in general, we are able to de-escalate the situation. And one of the things that I really didn't highlight here, but perhaps I should have, is that this county is lucky to have a mobile response team. And so one of the first steps that we are likely to offer when we are finding we're concerned about our ability to de-escalate, is to engage that mobile response team. And part of the vision of 988 really is to focus mental health services with mental health providers as opposed to engaging 911. So,
and I appreciate that, and de-escalating certainly is,
The
what you
goal.
want to do.
Exactly.
But if someone calls and says, I just took a bottle of pills, I want to talk to you, it seems to me that that's something that you're going to need to respond to so that someone can be going to respond and answer the need that person is probably going to have because of taking action even before they called you. So there's no possibility of de-escalating.
certainly, and I look forward to engaging further on solutions in that area.
Very good. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the excellent presentation, and thank you, Commissioner McKinley, for bringing this to us. I have 3 questions for you. When looking at suicide deaths, are overdoses considered suicides?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And just curious, in data sharing, do you share aggregate data with county staff, like community services, so they can potentially spot trends that are happening in our community early on?
We do, and let me back up, Vice Mayor, and clarify that answer. I gave you a short answer, and it's really a longer answer. The determination of suicide happens at the medical examiner's office, so if the overdose was thought to be intentional, then it would be considered a suicide. So they have to make that determination, and I would have to speak to them more specifically about how they do it. And the other question, do we report aggregate data? Absolutely. We do extensive reporting to the county.
Okay. And then last question is, in the case of like a natural disaster here in the county, and if your lines go down, who takes those calls? And I'm more thinking about for local needs and so forth that people may have, like after a hurricane.
Mm-hmm. So this is a big concern and part of why we need a building that is hurricane rated, which we don't have currently. So the way that it works at the moment is that if we have to close down because of a hurricane, our calls are routed to a partner 211, and then we remotely keep the resource information updated, which is all cloud-based. So that remote 211 is able to access our local resources, and then as soon as we're able to get back in the building, we resume them. But what we would like to do is have a building that we don't have to worry about when a storm is coming might be blown down.
Right, and I agree with you on that, but I'm also concerned about the infrastructure. We lose the infrastructure, communications infrastructure. It's not uncommon during storms.
Well, let me clarify that we just switched over to a cloud-based phone system, so that system is no longer premise-based. So it is not located, if a storm blows through here, that phone system won't go down. It's not located here. And neither is our resource directory. It's not located here.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioner McKinley?
There was a question regarding the medical examiner, and we're fortunate she's in the audience, so maybe she could answer that question.
And if you would identify yourself and...
We call this putting you on the spot.
No. Good morning. So the question was
Push your button.
how we identify these drug overdoses as suicides, correct?
Have you pushed a button? I'm not hearing you. There we go.
Correct? How we identify these cases is drug overdoses as suicides. Well, let me start by saying that in 2021, we had 610 accidental drug overdoses. But our drug overdoses were a total of 657, meaning those other 47 drug overdoses were determined to be suicides. The way that we determine suicide is multiple-fold. We rely on law enforcement investigation, right? There's a scene, somebody dies. They go there, they gather this information that points us towards a suicidal manner. Is the actions of the person, what they may have said before they passed. And also we, as the medical examiners, we interview family members, people that know the person, and we work around what we call the terminal event. When we get that information, we do an autopsy, and we need to find that nothing else is responsible for the death of this person, and that our toxicology provides the information that is consistent with calling this death a drug overdose. And at that point, that's how we differentiate accident versus suicide.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for your input. Okay, I think we have exhausted the subject. Mr. Green, did you want to add anything to this?
No, I'm good.
Okay, very good. All right, we have a couple of comment cards. Commissioner Kerner, would you please call up our guests?
Thank you, Mayor. We have only 2 comment cards submitted, Adrian Roundtree and then a representative for the Children, Inc.
Please come forward, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
We are on 5B1, correct? Yes, it indicates 5B1. Were you hoping to speak on a different item or on this one?
I'm Adrian Roundtree.
Come to the microphone, please.
This is 5F1.
I'm for the children.
It's 5F1.
Okay, my apologies. We'll call you on 5F1. Thank you.
Okay, so we're,
I don't believe there are any comment cards on 5B1.
okay, very good. All right, so we have a motion to receive and file. All in favor? All opposed? That's been approved 6-0. Thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation, and obviously this is a subject that we're going to have a continuing conversation. I think the county administrator understands our concerns, and even though I keep beating her up on her budget, obviously there is some need to assist in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to move on now to item 5C1. This is Housing and Economic Development.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 5C1 and states that neither the taxing power nor the faith and credit of the county nor any county funds are pledged to pay the principal, redemption premium, if any, or interest on the bonds.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. The motion's by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner McKinley. I am going to allow for a brief presentation on this because I think it's something that we want to let our residents know. This is a $39 million decision that we're making, and certainly would like to let them know what we're doing here.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the bond. David?
There's about 6 of these.
Go ahead. Jonathan Brown, our Department of Housing and Economic Sustainability Director, will make this presentation.
Hey. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. This is a project where we're asking to adopt a resolution approving the issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds by the Palm Beach County Housing Finance Authority. As you stated, Mayor, the issue amount is not to exceed $39 million. Location is 499 Boynton Bay Circle in the city of Boynton Beach. And the uses for these dollars will be to finance the acquisition, rehabilitation, and equipping of a multifamily housing facility for seniors 55 and over, containing approximately 55 units, again, known as Boynton Bay Apartments. And the AMI for these occupants will not exceed 60%. There are no county obligations on these bonds. And again, justification is inconsistent with the IRS code for these particular bonds.
Very good. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner McKinley. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, all opposed, show that as being approved 5-0 with the Vice Mayor absent. Okay, we're going to move on now to item 5C2. Again, Housing and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mayor and the board. Good morning. So this item, you previously approved $2 million in SHIP fund for us to do an RFP seeking applications for multifamily housing. The RFP was issued, the responses came in, they were evaluated, and based on the responses, $1.499, almost $1.5 million is being allocated to Wells Landing Apartments LLC. This development is a 124-unit multifamily rental development with a variety of income groups located in Boynton Beach. There was also $500,500 awarded to Berkeley Landing. This development is situated in Riviera Beach, and it's a 112-unit multifamily rental development. Berkeley, that project is currently under construction, and with the 589, there was a deficit, a shortfall of approximately $589,500, almost another $500,000. So in speaking with our Administrator Baker, she has granted permission for us to tap into the $40.8 million that included some ARPA funding, so this project can be fully funded and it can proceed. So we're asking for approval to award these contracts and also to use some of the ARPA funding. But before we seek the final approval, we have a slide here that would like to illustrate how projects are actually funded and the various types of financing mechanism that come into play. So Jonathan and Sherry, who has that slide? Okay. So Jonathan, would you like to go through Wells Landing?
Yep, just two slides to present today. Wells Landing, as Dort mentioned, the request from the county, $1,499,500. It's a new construction project of 124 multifamily units. The location, again, is off of MLK in Boynton Beach. All the units will be for those that are 70% and below AMI with a deed restriction, affordability restriction for 30 years on the SHIP-assisted units. Also, it's important to note that on the SHIP-assisted units, those will go for individuals whose household income is at 30% AMI or less. The total development cost for this project, $35.5 million. And then we just lay out kind of the stack, the capital stack for this project. The 9% tax credit represents just over $16 million. The first mortgage that's secured represents just under $12 million. The CRA has contributed over $4 million to the project. The county, through this RFP, approximately $1.5 million. The city of Boynton Beach has also contributed $625,000 to the project. The developer will defer a portion of their developer fee, and then the county also awarded impact fees to this project of approximately $392,000. And so for this particular project, an illustration of how a 9% tax credit project will work and the county's contribution, as well as the municipal contributions to this 9% tax credit project. Additionally, Berkeley Landing, this particular request we're asking for is just over $1 million, and as Dort mentioned, it includes a portion from the SHIP RFP as well as the repurposed ARPA funds. This project is a new construction of 112 multifamily units in the city of Riviera Beach. The income categories or groups that will be served will be those at 80% or below the area median income for a 30-year period, and then you will also see that the county will assist 15 of those units. Units will be deed restricted, and the AMI for those units will be at 50% or below, and then you'll have some at 80% and below. Again, a certain number, 6 and 9 respectively. Now, of the 112 units, 110, again, are going to be affordable. 2 of those units will be market rate. We as the county are not participating in the market rate portion of the project. Total development costs, again, just to give you an idea of what the capital stack looks like for a 9% tax credit project, $37.6 million is the total development cost. Approximately $23 million is coming from the 9% tax credit, $8.5 million in the form of a first mortgage. This developer is deferring $4.3 million approximately, or a little over 90% of their developer fee they're actually deferring. Then you're looking at the assistance the county is presenting in this particular agenda item totaling just over $1 million. And then the city of Riviera Beach has a contribution of $640,000. And then Palm Beach County also provided impact fee assistance for this project.
Question. You said that this is deed restricted for 30 years. What happens if it sells within that 30 years? Is that a reset for another 30 years, or how does that work?
Typically, it's not a reset. The restrictions will continue to go on. Now, the developer would have that opportunity to extend if they want to extend, but typically they take on the responsibility of the current owner who has the deed restrictions.
And what exactly does that do for the value of that real estate in that 30-year period? Is there any appreciation at all, or how is that managed so that if someone is going to sell, let's say, after 10 years, and normally they would have seen appreciation of, 20%, what would happen to this particular property?
Mayor, I'll defer that question to one of the developers. We have a developer here from Berkeley as well as Landing. They can probably speak more to how their value adjusts or not. I know I saw Tim here.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Tim Wheat. I represent Pinnacle Communities, and we're part of the development team for Berkeley Landing. Mr. Mayor, response to your question, we're income restricted over 30 years, but there's a bigger overlay, and that's a 50-year income restriction from Florida Housing Finance Corporation that in both developments receive 9% housing credits. So the property appraiser typically appraises affordable properties using the income approach. So as a result of the properties being restricted by income, they're restricted in terms of their overall value. So they don't appreciate, to answer your question in shorthand, they don't appreciate the same way a market rate property would.
For a property appraiser's point of view, it may not be appreciating, but from a point of view of saleability within a community where other homes are appreciating, let's say, at 20%, is this somehow dampening this particular property so it's not going to appreciate quite as fast?
It won't appreciate, Berkeley, for example, I can only speak to Berkeley Landing in my 35 years of experience in this business, starting as a staffer at Palm Beach County. So the rate of appreciation will be not as great on Berkeley Landing as it would be in surrounding properties. But the whole question of if you look at it in the inverse, the whole question of how does affordable housing spur property value increases in particularly redeveloping areas? And there's a compendium of about 39 studies that are posted on the Florida Housing Coalition website. One in particular was a groundbreaking study in Madison, Wisconsin, done about 20 years ago, that indicates there's no net negative value, and in fact, probably an improvement in value as a result of developing affordable multifamily housing, because a lot of times it's the catalyst for other redevelopment activities in the surrounding area. And I know that's the goal for Riviera Beach and supporting Berkeley Landing such that it has.
For many families, their house is the primary part of their wealth. And the generation of wealth is based upon the appreciation of their property. So long term, are we in a situation where the people who are getting the advantage of the affordable workforce housing, losing the opportunity to, again, see their wealth grow as anybody else?
These are rentals.
I'm sorry, I'm completely off.
You know what? I'm going to answer that. Can I answer that question?
Sure.
One of the things we do at Berkeley Landing for our residents, because we are a rental community, is that we encourage homeownership and an eventual transition into homeownership. So, for example, our residents will receive, if they live with us for longer than 2 years and are in good standing and they buy a home through the county or the Riviera Beach's CDC or another first-time home buyer program, they get a rebate from us equal to 5% of their rent paid during their term of tenancy. And when you crunch the numbers, that adds up quite a bit. So, you could look at a couple $1,000s that goes to the title company and it helps with their down payment.
That's a nice point to bring up. Okay, Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to staff for thinking outside the box in terms of trying to approve these two projects. Dort, I believe there was a project out in the Glades.
Yeah, there was.
What'd you say?
Yes, there was.
And so what's our thinking in terms of thinking outside the box to get that project on the way?
That was Calusa Point 2
Okay,
in the
Calusa.
Glades. Yes, they submitted an application. They need $2 million, and we've been in conversation with the Housing Finance Authority and also Administrator Baker to fund that project. So we are having some conversations with the developer, but the intent is to try to get that project out of the ground because it is a worthy project.
Okay, well, I know for me, that's something that's really important. I know this is important to you, Commissioner McKinley, but I'm hoping that, with the $40 million that we do have, that we can find a way to think outside the box to get that project done.
Yes, we are. And we also have in draft an RFP for about $15 million to also go on the street.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McKinley, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you. And Commissioner Bernard, I want to congratulate you for, I think, every one of these housing projects we've approved today, except for one is in your district. So that's tremendous to you, but I am frustrated, and I'm happy to support this one today. But the way staff presented this today was a little bit different than the way it was presented in agenda review yesterday. And when I'm looking at both of these projects, particularly the Berkeley Landing one, and it was deemed to be such a worthwhile project that even though it was short in funds, we were able to dig into the ARPA dollars to make it whole and make it happen. And I asked you months ago to do something like that with the Calusa, and here we are, we're still talking around in circles about trying to come up with creative ways to get that project done, yet here you are today before us with a creative way to get the project done. And I'm wondering why, in an area where we don't have the impact fee credits because we don't collect impact fees, we don't have the CRA that has big pots of funding to help make those contributions. We are in an area with extremely high land development costs in terms of having to demarket. Why we didn't split the pot of the SHIP funds and make some of that money available to both of these projects and backfill both of them with ARPA dollars. Why are we still sitting here today trying to find a creative way to do this project in the Glades that is shovel-ready with a developer that has already done a project that has been tremendously successful? We don't need him to prove himself. He's already done that. Why are we still trying to figure out a creative way today?
So, yes, Commissioner McKinley, so we have been actually working with them on this project, and the issue for them on the SHIP is that they came in third on the scoring, but it was partly because of lining up the finances. They had to submit an application to us, but they also had to submit to the Housing Finance Authority. So since this point, we have made sure, working with the Housing Finance Authority, that all of those things are now aligned, and so now we can say they are, for the most part, funded except our gap. And so we can present now to you a shovel-ready project. I believe the Housing Finance Authority is set to review that funding request Friday. And so now we can say it's fully funded, conditioned upon the BCC approval for the $2 million gap, and it's shovel-ready and ready to go based on the recommendation from the Housing Finance Authority's board.
Well, these projects all came in at the same time, and we have several projects for the Housing Finance Authority here before us today. Why was that particular one delayed?
Based on their submittal, based on Calusa Point's submittal of their application to the Housing Finance Authority.
it's a little frustrating that we're still talking in circles on this one. Thank you.
Administrator Baker?
Staff answered the question. I just wanted to reiterate, there's a process, unfortunately, and sometimes everything does not align from the developer. And so we are working on it. The Glades housing is a very important aspect that we look at and we think outside the box for those particular projects. When we initially started with the ARPA funds, we had dollars set aside, but this board did realign those dollars, and when we realigned those dollars, it freed up roughly, not didn't free up, but it reallocated some of those dollars into that 40 million that you approved, and we were able to move projects a little faster. But in this particular case, this particular project, we have been riding roughshod on making sure it happens in the Glades. We're in a position now where we can make that happen, and we'll bring it back to the board. It
And
takes
thank you for
time.
that, but it is urgent. Since February, I've had 64 families that have had to be relocated because the buildings are condemned. And I promise you, if we went digging out there a little bit further, we probably have a dozen that we could condemn tomorrow.
I
It's
hear you loud
urgent.
and clear. I'm well aware of the housing conditions in the Glades. We really need a lot of housing in that area. We are working on those issues, and we will continue to work on those issues as fast as we possibly can, working with developers and the additional funding that we currently have. So we'll be able to work through the process. But there is a process, and we do need to work through that process.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, and I appreciate a much more extensive review than we had earlier on this. But I want to focus in on the subsidy that's required to bring these projects to fruition. And on the Wells project, if I did my math correctly, it's $185,000 per unit subsidy that's required for that. Does that sound?
For the Wells Landing project, I mean, if we take total cost of the 35.5 at the 124 units, we come up with a total unit cost of $286,000.
Correct.
Based on our assistance, we come up with $90,000 from the county per unit.
From the county, but if you look at the total amount of funding that's required to make a project like this work, if I did this right, it's $185,000 to make it work.
You're subtracting the first mortgage amount and just looking
Yep,
at
I'm just taking out the first mortgage and everything else
Yes, sir.
added up. That's what I did. I mean, everything else comes. Correct.
Right.
Same thing on the other one then, it's, on the Berkeley project is $202,000 per unit. Is that when I take out the first mortgage? So that if we didn't have these other parts of the financing available, we couldn't do this. They wouldn't be able to build these units for this particular market segment of renters.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because we've been talking about subsidies for a lot of other areas, and I'm really trying to get my hands or mind around, what does it really take to make these projects work, so that when we, potentially talk to our taxpayers, we can speak intelligently about it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thanks.
Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just, Commissioner, Vice Mayor Weiss, these projects are, very hard to do, and you've got to work, especially if you can win a 9% credit. You want to get the job done because then you get more equity, and so now you're able to put a little bit less money per unit. But, Commissioner McKinley, I sense your frustration. I know that you're frustrated, and, I do want to let you know that the reason why we're able to think outside the box is because this board is the one who really had the discussion in regards to housing and how we want to allocate the funding. So it's because of the decisions that we've made that now we're able to get this project done in the Glades. So I know you're frustrated, but we're going to get it done.
On that note, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 5C2, A, B, C, D, and E, and F.
I'll make the motion.
I have a Commissioner Marino's motion to approve. Do I have a second by Commissioner Bernard? All in favor, all opposed, show that as being approved 6-0. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor.
And just to make a note for the record, these are county ARPA and state SHIP program grant funds that do not require a local match.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on now to item 5C3, Housing and Economic Development.
This is revenue bonds, again, from the Palm Beach County Health Facilities Authority, and we'll have our Deputy Director, Sherry Howard, to speak to this.
Good morning, Commissioners. This item will adopt a resolution approving the issuance of bonds by Palm Beach County Health Facilities Authority for the Green Cay Life Village project. It's to finance approximately 200 units of continuing care retirement facilities, including assisted living, memory care, common areas, and parking. There are no county obligations on the bonds, and the Internal Revenue Code requires that tax-exempt bonds are approved by an elected governmental agency.
Any questions? Any cards? Okay, I'll take a motion. I have a motion by
Make a motion that
Commissioner...
neither the taxing power nor the faith and credit of the county nor any county funds are pledged to pay the principal redemption premium, if any, or interest on the notes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Marino on 5C3. I have a second by Vice Mayor Weiss. I see no further discussion. All in favor, all opposed, we'll show that as being approved, 6-0. Thank you very much. We are moving on. Another housing and economic development item, 5C4.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is the Housing Finance Authority for the issuance of 200 million Finance Authority revenue bonds. We have the bond attorney, Skip Miller, and also David Brandt, who will explain this item.
You are recognized.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Very quickly, the Housing Finance Authority can issue two types of bonds, basically. They're tax-exempt, ones for single-family mortgage revenue bond programs, such as what's being considered to be approved today, or for multifamily rental housing projects. That was very similar to the item you just approved earlier. But before the Housing Finance Authority can actually issue bonds, we need to obtain what is called private activity bond allocation. That allocation is based on the population of the United States, and then it's allocated to each state, again, based on population. Then the state legislature decides what uses and who is going to be able to use that private activity allocation within the state. Our region, Palm Beach County, has an allocation of just under $79 million a year. That means that it would cap our ability to issue bonds to that amount. As you saw from the previous approval, one project, Boynton Bay, would take $39 million. What we're attempting to do here is to not only give ourselves the ability to obtain that allocation, which we have to do by June 30th of the year, there's also a possibility out of the $2.4 billion of private activity bond allocation that's available in Florida during the year, that there may be some unused portion that goes back to the state, and that's available for reallocation in November. So the real purpose of moving forward with this request for single family is to allow us to put in an application for $200 million. We will get $78.8 million, but there's also the possibility that we'll get some additional allocation from the pool. There is no intent to issue bonds in 2022. If we get that allocation, what our expectation is to carry that forward into 2023. Once the bond allocation is converted to carry forward under the Internal Revenue Code, we have 3 years to issue bonds against that allocation. Our multifamily bond pipeline right now, project pipeline is up to 6 projects, including Calusa Point 2, which the board expects to induce on Friday. And the total requested bond financing is now in excess of $250 million. So it shows you the importance of getting this 78.8 and the possibility of getting any additional allocation from the pool in November. So with that, I would just say that if once in January, the Housing Finance Authority will make a determination as to how they're going to use that allocation. Some could be used for single family. More than likely, it will be applied towards multifamily bond, affordable rental bond projects. And that, again, that allocation will be available to us for 3 years on a first-come, first-served basis.
Okay, so the motion to adopt would be for an amount not to exceed $200 million.
Mr.
Any
Mayor,
further
make
discussion?
I make a motion to approve item 5C4
5C4
and states that neither the taxing power nor the faith and credit of the county nor any county funds shall be pledged to pay principal or redemption premiums, if any, or interest on the bonds.
We have Commissioner Bernard's motion. Do I have a second? I have a second by Commissioner Marino. Commissioner McKinley, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. If staff could please get to me a list over the last 8 years of where these bond revenues have been utilized, the list of the projects, I'd appreciate that.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, all opposed, show that is approved 6-0. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to Engineering and Public Works now. 5C5. What is 5C5? I thought we got the... All right. All right, we're going to, what, 5C5, which was originally
3I7, found on page 26, Mr. Mayor.
All right, hold on.
I think it was the Palm Beach County Housing Authority compliance.
Right, we haven't taken it up yet, though, right?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so just for everybody following, on the agenda, 3I7 was renumbered to 5C5. 5C5, we'll take that up now.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Jonathan Brown, Department of Housing and Economic Development. You see also to the podium to my right, your left, Carol Jones-Gilbert, the Executive Director for the Palm Beach County Public Housing Authority. Again, HUD requires that every year public housing authorities submit annual plans to be reviewed by the local HUD entitlement jurisdiction in which the housing authority is located. And what we do when we receive their plan is that we compare it to the 5-year consolidated plan that the Board of County Commissioners has already approved for the housing and economic development programs to determine if the housing authority plan is consistent with the plan already in place by the Board of County Commissioners. In this particular case, their plan is consistent with our plan, and we're requesting that the County Commission execute the certification of consistency for the Palm Beach County Public Housing Authority.
Any questions? We have a motion?
Do we have anything from the Housing Authority explaining what that plan is?
Basically, the annual plan lays out any projects that we propose to undertake over the upcoming year for our public housing and our housing choice voucher programs, as well as development. Basically, it's kind of the kitchen sink plan. Anything that we're even considering doing, we put in the plan, because without that, we would have to have another 45-day public review period and comment period. We don't anticipate that we get to everything in the plan, and it's not always possible, but we put it in there so that if we do get that done, we can get to it. HUD looks at our plan every year. We're required to submit this by July. So it will lay out on one of the things that I know that we're planning on doing this year is doing a designated housing plan for Drexel to designate it purely elderly senior development. That plan expired in 2013. prior to me coming to the agency, and so we need to renew that plan so that Drexel can remain a senior community. We look at our scattered houses. We have approximately 42 scattered public housing properties. We're looking at, do we want to project-base those and change them from a public housing format to a Section 8 platform that will allow us to keep those families in those houses but take advantage of the higher payment standard rents to assist the Housing Authority in operating those properties. So those are some of the things that are laid out in our plan. It also talks about any changes that we're going to make to our admissions and continued occupancy policy, which governs our 428 public housing properties, and our administrative plan, which governs our more than 3,000 housing choice vouchers.
And just two questions. Jonathan, do you have any sort of slide or list or anything you can share with the public right now about what those proposed projects are?
Commissioner, we do not have a slide or a presentation. Typically, what is provided to us is a narrative form of the plan, and we just review those plans, projects, but more so the plan to ensure its consistency. And so we've looked at the plan, and basically their plan is focused on increasing the supply of affordable housing, deconcentrating public housing, and furthering fair housing, which again would be consistent with the plan we have in place. We can secure copies of specific information related to those projects now.
What we've discovered out in the Glades and some of these residents that we've had to relocate from very unhealthy living situations is that a few of them were receiving vouchers to pay the rent in the unit that they were living in. Does the Housing Authority do any sort of inspection of the unit before they issue the voucher?
Yes, we employ a third-party inspection company, McWright. All units require an initial inspection, which is actual physical inspection before the HAP contract is signed. And basically that inspection has to pass, that unit has to pass housing quality standards, basic minimum standards before we can enter into a housing assistance payment contract.
And how long are those contracts good for?
The contract is good until the tenant or the resident terminates, but each year there's an inspection, an annual inspection of that unit.
Okay, I'm just curious how some of these units passed inspection.
Well, one of the things that we are doing is looking at, taking a closer look at the units. Some of them, the landlords, due to a COVID waiver, were able to self-certify to corrections and to send pictures. Where we find there are issues, we do have the ability to do biannual inspections, but for those landlords that have consistent fail ratings, we're still requiring an annual inspection because we're noticing that some of those self-certifications were not accurately depicting the true condition of the unit.
Is your third-party inspection company going back now and doing an inspection on any of the units that were inspected during that waiver period?
Yes, they are required to complete the inspection even though we took the waiver. The waiver expired 12/31/2021, and we have to complete an inspection on all of those units by June.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you very much. Ms. Jones-Gilbert, just in regards to veterans housing, I know a couple years ago we were successful in terms of reducing the homeless with our homeless veterans. What are we looking at in terms of our VASH vouchers? Are you able to still secure them, or how are we looking in terms of our vets being homeless?
In 2019, I believe, we were able to, for the first time, receive an allocation of 15 VASH vouchers. This agency had never had VASH vouchers. Every year, HUD puts out a letter of interest, and we submit our letter of interest in receiving additional allocations. We have to have a letter of support from the VA hospital. We have been notified by HUD that letter of interest will be coming out within the upcoming months, and so we do intend to apply for additional VASH vouchers. Of the 15 that we received, we were able to successfully house 12. I will say that the rent increases have greatly impacted the veterans' ability to locate housing. We have one particular veteran that has been waiting for almost a year for a project to complete construction because this is the property that she found that she can afford and that she would be able to lease. She is scheduled to lease up this month. Some of the things that we've done is increase our payment standards to 120% of the fair market rent to allow our most vulnerable populations, our mainstream that serve non-elderly disabled, our VASH, our foster youth vouchers to be able to locate housing. It is still a challenge. We have emergency housing vouchers that were issued almost a year ago, and we have clients that still have not been able to locate housing.
Well, thank you very much for the answer, and I'm glad you said you increased the to 120%, and I want to make sure that if we anything that we can do to help and assist you or our delegation in terms of getting these more vouchers for our vets, that'd be very important. Thank you.
Okay. Might I add that the plan is available on our website, the total plan, and at each of our administrative offices. So anyone who wants to see the plan and in total can look on our website.
Thank you very much for that presentation. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to execute the annual plan for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Commissioner Marino is up. Yes?
Just to correct the statement Commissioner McKinley asked, the plan is also attached as Exhibit 2, and it does contain a list of projects.
Thank you.
Okay, so Commissioner Marino has made the motion. Vice Mayor Weiss has seconded. Commissioner Bernard, do you have any other comments? No. Okay, very good. All in favor, all opposed, show that it's being approved 6-0. All right, we're going back now.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner McKinley, I'm sorry.
may I ask, I see a lot of little ones, and it's getting close to lunch hour, and they've been so good and patient. May I ask, Mr. Mayor, what item they are here for, and see if we can't take that item up now and let these little ones go have lunch?
Which item was that,
5H1.
Commissioner
That's
McKinley?
youth services.
5H1. I'll take a motion to reorder 5H1.
Was it?
I have
No,
a second.
5F1.
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 Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
This is
I have
services.
4 people making the motion, but I'm going to give credit to Commissioner McKinley, seconded by Commissioner Marino, and I'm assuming our clerk has picked up the nuances of that motion. All right,
Thank you.
let's move that forward.
They've been so good. Probably just jinxed y'all, but.
We done with the
All
presentation?
over the place today.
Done with the presentation?
Ms. Miller, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. So this is Youth Services item, and we have Tammy Fields, the Director of Youth Services, and we do have a presentation for you.
Good morning, Commissioners and Madam Administrator. I want to start by saying thank you for the budget allocation to be able to help so many of our youth-serving organizations, and thank you for allowing us to go a little bit earlier. I have to agree that the children that are here, and they are here for the children, have been exceptionally well-behaved, a testament to the agency. Every year, we do a notice of funding availability based on our youth master plan, and this slide just briefly shows the process that we went through. We had 3 areas that we focused on this year, and those areas were our health and wellness supports, ensuring safety and justice, and our social and emotional learning supports. So just want to go through the proposals that we received. We'd love to have funded every agency, but that's not quite possible with the dollars available. We did have 35 proposals. 33 of them were scored, 2 were ineligible, and they requested $4.9 million. We had $2.2 million available to make recommendations with. But with that $2.2 million, there will be over 4,000 parents and children served in our community. So first, with our health and wellness supports, We had 10 proposals that were received, and 5 of them are having recommendations for funding for a total amount of $716,000. That is for Compass, the Center for Child Counseling, Connections Education Center, For the Children, and PACE Center for Girls. All of these programs do have countywide application. When we are doing these proposals, we do use some outside experts to help us review the proposals. In the area of safety and justice, we had 11 proposals, 7 of which are being recommended for a total of $648,000. The center, or the Children's Case Management Organization, which is Families First, that project is going to be solely in District 6, and the Communities and Schools project is in District 7. Otherwise, all of them that are listed here are countywide. And then in the area of social and emotional learning, we had 14 proposals received. 11 are being recommended today for a total of $844,000. The Boys and Girls Club of Palm Beach County, that one is specifically going to be at the Glade Center, and City of Green Acres is District 3. Florence Fuller is Districts 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Milagro Foundation is District 4. The Housing Partnership that's in Lake Worth, at Lake Worth High School, is going to be in District 7. Housing Partnership is at Pahokee, and so that's District 6. Path to College, which is a new agency for funded this year, is 2, 3, and 7, and the Urban League is 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And those are our recommendations. I really would like to thank the staff of our Outreach and Community Programming, Gita Loach-Jacobson and Ike Powell for all of their work in bringing this forward. Can answer any questions.
All right, I see no questions. We have a few cards. Commissioner Kerner?
Thank you, Mayor, and we'll jump right into public comment. We have about 24 minutes of public comment from members of the public. We're excited to have you here. The first speaker will be, and I apologize in advance, Amoy Gordon. Mr. or Ms. Gordon, Jennifer Ray. And then following, are you Jennifer Ray?
I am.
All right, following Ms. Ray, we'll have a representative of For the Children, Inc.
Ms. Ray, you'll have 3 minutes, but don't have to use all 3.
I'll be fast as possible. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I'm Jennifer Ray, Chief Program Officer with Aid to Victims of Domestic Abuse. I want to thank you for supporting our programs, and specifically with the Youth Services staff and their department and their wonderful support, our efforts to prevent domestic and dating violence. AVDA's mission is to offer life-saving services while promoting violence-free, equitable relationships and creating the social changes necessary to end domestic and dating violence. With the support of funding from Palm Beach County Youth Services, supported by the Commission, AVDA expanded our efforts to engage young men as allies in ending domestic and dating violence over the past 5 years. We were supported by the national organization Men Can Stop Rape. We licensed their Men of Strength clubs. We were trained in facilitating that program, and we have facilitated that for the past 5 years here in Palm Beach County with young men. This program is identified as by the Centers for Disease Control as one of the top 4 gender-based violence prevention programs in our country. And it provides young men a structured, supportive space to learn about healthy masculinity, develop healthy relationships, and become leaders in violence prevention. It struck me when you were talking about infrastructure for another program, and when I started at AVDA 21 years ago as a child advocate, actually, we were a 25-bed emergency shelter. We are currently a 64-bed emergency shelter. If we do not want to continue to build shelters to house victims of domestic violence safely away from abusive partners, we need to invest in prevention programming. With continued support from Palm Beach County Youth Services funding, AVDA will continue to facilitate those Men of Strength clubs, as well as our own Commit to Change violence prevention curriculum, which was approved by the Department of Justice's Office on Violence Against Women as a program to prevent domestic and dating violence with young people. We hope that you will adopt the recommendations for funding in support of AVDA's Domestic and Dating Violence Prevention Program, as well as the other amazing programs that benefit from the county's Youth Services Department funding. Thank you.
And we thank you very much for the services you're providing to our residents.
Thank you, Mayor. I had made a mistake earlier on the Amoy Gordon card. It was a non-speaking card, but the comments are as follows. The American Association of Caregiving Youth thanks the county for the funding opportunity and recognition of caregiving youth and their families. This funding will significantly impact the lives of these youth with the provision of services and support to promote social and emotional wellness through groups, respite activities, etc.
Very good.
Is there a representative for the children available? They submitted a comment card but no name.
And while she's coming up to the microphone,
wonderful.
I want to thank AACY and Dr. Siskowski for everything she does for the caregiving youth.
And then we'll also have Adrian Roundtree from HFHK as well as our next speaker.
Please identify yourself, and you will have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Regina Joandis, founder and CEO for the children. Everybody call me Reggie. And I want to say thank you to Commissioner McKellen for pushing the item forward. One of the main reasons for bringing the kids here today, not only to support our proposal, but also to say thank you to the county for the continued support, and also to the staff of the services for the continuing support for us whenever we need something, they're there. And we also get funding from FAA as well for the mental health. And our program is really free to the family, and one of our parents are here, and she would like to say something to you.
Hi, my name is Adrian Roundtree, and it was a point in my life that I was struggling because I had lost my son to an overdose. And I ran into Miss Trudy, my teacher, and I got healthy family, healthy kids, and they got involved in my life. So I never got the chance to graduate high school. But I said, well, I want a graduation when we complete this class, and that was my first certificate. I got this here, and now I'm in GED school. I go around to the younger people in the neighborhood, and I bring them to class. They involved, and we don't be wanting the class to end because it's so good. It's so good. I told my teacher, I say, put my name on the board, because I don't want to graduate now, because it be so good. And then all my classmates, they be saying, dog, it done came so quick. It came so quick, but this is a good program. I have never seen a strawberry on, and I'm 53 years old, I've never seen a strawberry on a tree, on a plant, until I went to this class, because we got a garden, we got everything in it. It teaches the kids to go out there, they watered it and everything. But I thank y'all for having me here. And that program does work, and I wish we could continue with it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Bernard.
just want to add, Ms. Reggie, thanks for being here and bringing the kids. And I had the chance to tour. I was in the area last week, and I got a chance to pass by your building, and just seeing around the area just some of the illegal dumping that takes place around there. And what I hope is that we can clean up the area a little bit more, working with the sheriff's office. There's too many illegal dumping that's in that area, and we need to continue to protect. Okay, perfect. Because I'm like, we need to make sure that the air is clean so we can continue to protect the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McKinley.
Just a note, gee, I'm gonna need an extra box of Kleenex these last 5 months up here. But I just did my last Commissioner Spotlight filming, and the last question Todd asked me is, what am I gonna miss? That's what I'm gonna miss. So thank you for sharing your story with us.
Absolutely. Commissioner Kerner.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next speaker will be Christine Sylvain, or Sylvain, apologize, and then Glenn Mueller from the Milagro Center.
And you can state your name correctly for the record.
Hello, my name is Christine Sylvain. I am the founder and executive director of Path to College, and I'm here to thank you all and to thank the Youth Services Department for recommending Path to College's mentoring program for funding this funding season. It's, as we've heard tonight, it is more than timely. The U.S. Surgeon General put out a health advisory last December calling attention for all leaders to look at youth mental health. It's a serious concern, and I appreciate Sharon LaRue also for giving us a full overview earlier of the mental health concerns we're seeing in our community. And I just wanted to say one thing about mentoring. Mentoring is shown to mitigate against some of the consequences and toxic stress that comes from adverse childhood experiences. It's shown to improve self-confidence, improve willingness to take on responsibility, create more connected neighborhoods and communities. And so through the social and emotional wellness supports, Path to College will be able to provide each one of our students a one-on-one mentor so that they have the support they need through high school and in planning their futures. So again, I want to thank everyone here for supporting us. We know that these kids can truly achieve their highest ambitions, but it takes a community of support and know-how. So thank you again.
Thank you very much for what you do for the children.
All right, following Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank you for being here today, Christine, and I've had an opportunity to see your program firsthand and participate in some of the things you do with your students, and Commissioner Bernard and I, in fact, were at your dinner with the kids, and so that they have an opportunity to understand, or not to understand, but to have a real formal dinner, so that they're prepared as they make their way in the world. But the ability that you all have shown to help these children make the best possible lives for themselves, and to see the schools that they're getting into, and to hear from them and their talents, it's amazing that we have a program like that to assist kids in our community. So I just want to thank you on behalf of myself and the board.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Following Mr. Mueller, our final speaking card will be Rex Barnes.
Hi, my name is Glenn Muller. I'm the Director of Grants Administration for the Milagro Center, which is an aftercare and summer camp program for economically challenged, academically at-risk children and teens in Delray Beach. We serve the most underserved communities in South Palm Beach County, Boynton Beach, Delray Beach, and northern Boca Raton. And I want to thank Youth Services. We've had grants from them for 5 years. They helped us create a dedicated middle school program, which was needed. They gave us a grant for our teen leadership program, and this may be the most important of all, because as we heard today from Sharon, I mean, the need for social emotional supports is greater than ever. At Milagro Center, our mission is to ensure the social and academic success of underserved children and youth through cultural arts, living values, academic support, and mentoring. But our staff has long been aware that they can't focus on academic success without first addressing the mental health and behavioral challenges that often get in the way of learning. And we've seen more of a need for social emotional support than ever. And Youth Services had social emotional supports as part of their notice of funding opportunity. So we'll really be able to offer comprehensive social emotional supports with this grant. We're bringing in social workers from Ruth and Norman Rails Jewish Family Services. We just heard from Avda. Avda's somebody that we've actually chosen as one of our project partners. They'll come and teach our teens about healthy relationships. So we have over 50 grant funders at Milagro Center. Some of them I've never met. I know everybody from Youth Services well. They're really more than a funder, they're a partner. They work so hard. I want to commend them. I mean, anytime we have anything where we invite people, somebody from Youth Services is there, and that was true, including during the height of COVID. So we're very fortunate in Palm Beach County to have a Youth Services department that works so hard, to make this a better county. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, and it takes a village, and obviously all these nonprofits are very essential to our delivery of these services. Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 5F1, but after we do the motion, I'd like to also add something else, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Marino to Commissioner Bernard's motion.
Thank you,
Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I'd like for us to do, if it's possible, since we do have the kids here, after we approve this item, if we can bring the kids up so we can take a picture with the kids.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
I'll drink to that.
And just wanted to add, lastly, thank you very much, Tammy, to you and your staff. This past Sunday, we were at the Scholar Career Coaching event this past Sunday. It was great that you're present at the event, and just the dedication to your staff, to the youth of our students. It's really important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
I just wanted to highlight one thing that Mr. Mueller brought up. And one of the things we do with all of our agencies is we hold quarterly meetings with all of these agencies so that they can learn what each other is supporting and what supports are available. And so many partnerships, like with AVDA and other organizations, have formed between these agencies as a result of those quarterly meetings. And I was happy to hear him bring that up.
Very good. Commissioner Marino?
I'd like to recognize in the audience Renee Lehman, who is the executive director for the Center for Child Counseling. And I know you didn't put a card in, but you know, we all really love to hear what you all do there. So if you want to take a moment to come up to the microphone. I'm not putting you on the spot because I know you're a good public speaker.
And just for
Okay.
fill out a card when you're all done, please.
Okay, I did fill one out that said I didn't need to speak, but I could of course, Maria. I want to really thank Youth Services and Tammy's leadership and vision within our county to have a trauma-informed Palm Beach County. And she's been moving this work forward in our community, and it's so important. And it's the foundation of our work at Center for Child Counseling is really addressing adverse childhood experiences and creating trauma-informed families, schools, communities. If you don't know about ACEs, you need to. Adverse childhood experiences impacts all of us. It impacts the way we relate to each other. We were all children, right? So for better or worse, we bring those experiences into our relationships now, into our workplaces, into our schools, and it's really at the foundation of a lot of what impacts our society, from the opioid epidemic to addiction to violence. And if we don't address these issues in our community, we will never have healthy families and a healthy community. So Tammy, I'm going to call you out because she's really a driving force behind this, and her leadership at the county level has been critical to a lot of what has been going on through Birth to 22. And we're so happy to be a part of that. And at Center for Child Counseling, we've been hand in hand with Tammy driving this work forward. Maria's been involved with our Lead the Fight event, where we're talking grassroots to grass tops, how we can make these changes within our community. Our model of providing services is prevention, early intervention, and treatment. We realize that there are children and families that are already struggling with mental health and behavioral health disorders. We mitigate those experiences. We provide evidence-based treatment. But at the prevention and early intervention level, we know the science of prevention and early adversity shows that we can actually prevent lifelong mental health challenges, lifelong health challenges that result from ACEs. So getting in there early, providing that support early, things like Christine and that Pathway to College program, training the mentors how to mitigate the impact of ACEs, training everybody in our community, including you guys. I put on my list, reach out to Maria to schedule ACEs and trauma-informed care training for the Board of County Commissioners. So that's on my to-do list for today. So Tammy, thank you. Tammy, thank you. Maria, thank you for calling me out. I would love to have anybody tour or sign up for one of our trainings. We've been very involved with Tammy in providing system-wide training. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Maria.
Okay, Commissioner McKinley, you are recognized.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you I've actually done that training, and also my ACE score is an 8, if that explains why I choke up a lot up here. But thank you for your service.
Very good. Okay, Commissioner Bernard is going to take over for Commissioner Kerner and help me out with the cards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would Rex Barnes please come forward?
Mr. Barnes, you are recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. I will not take the 3 minutes. I can't go after all of that. You did a great job. So I just wanted to come up and thank the Youth Service Department and Palm Beach County for continuing to ensure that we can protect and keep kids safe, and that includes our gay and trans kids. So I just wanted to thank all of you for being here and supporting our kids in Palm Beach County.
And we thank you for everything Compass does. That's it? All right. All right, so just to refresh everybody's recollection, Commissioner Bernard made the motion to approve 5F1. Commissioner Marino seconded it. This is a conceptual approval. We will have this matter coming back when final contracts for each action area agency are presented to the board. But for now, let's have a vote. All in favor, all opposed. We have a 5-0 with Commissioner Kerner absent.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to look for a motion to reorder the agenda one more time.
The picture?
Oh, we're going to do the picture. All right. And then I'm going to get the Emmy up here because she's been waiting for a long time.
Well, I can hold and share, not one of these.
You know, when I got it, it had like, and the blood, and I'm like, I want to get up. Oh, yeah. That would be neat. First thing. Yeah. Come for body. Give it a bitch. All right. Thank you so much. Come, kids. Well, bye. Go ahead. I'm going in. Come on in. Congratulations. Right on track. You know I don't graduate, but still. She can't get rid of me. Step back some. Step back some. Yeah, let them slide down. Slide down a little bit. To the hair.
Okay, on the count of 3, we're gonna go. We're gonna go 1, 2,
multi-families.
I'm gonna do one with the flash, if that's okay.
And Aaron was trained in this.
Go 1, 2, 3. I know I said 1, but
You're 4. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. But you're turning 5 next year. All right.
She said we can eat our
All right.
Thank you so much.
I have a motion to reorder the agenda, move 5E1 up.
Okay, now we're back.
I have a motion by Commissioner McKinley, seconded by the Vice Mayor. We are going to do 5E1 and get the ME in and out. I did.
Yeah, he
oh,
did. He just did.
The poor thing over there, you know, she's just like,
It's a pain today.
I called the motion. All in favor, all opposed. We have it, 5-0. All right, my clerk is like getting gray hair over there. We've only reordered this agenda at least 5 times.
I was
going to say this was I don't think so.
Chief, hit it.
Yes, sir. No, I'm gonna, can I, let me just step in. I'd like to make a motion to move item 5E1, A and B.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by the Vice Mayor. I have a second by Commissioner Bernard. All in favor, all opposed, 5-0. Aren't you glad you sat around all this time?
Thank you.
Okay, you're done. Go back and take a look at a
She already
cadaver or
answered the
two.
question I was going to ask, so.
Did you want to ask her anything?
No, she answered it earlier.
Okay, good. All right.
But it was a good thing you were here because
Yeah.
we got your information earlier.
Yes, anytime.
All right, so I have almost lost track of this agenda.
5D1.
5D1, we're going to hit 5D1. Mr. Ricks, it's always wonderful to see you. How are the bridges in Palm Beach County?
A mid-year modification.
All right, so everybody who's following along, we're on 5D1. This is Engineering and Public Works, and staff has recommended a motion to approve on preliminary reading and to advertise for public hearing on Tuesday, July 12th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
You know, since it's just a preliminary, I'll go ahead and move approval.
I got a motion by Commissioner McKinley. I got a second by Commissioner, who are you, Marino? There you are. Okay. I know, we're down to one Maria. All right, all in favor, all opposed, 5-0. You can go home now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll
Getting
have
punchy.
questions next time.
All right, I think we have finished everything. Place of Hope is off the agenda. Moving on, it's time for board appointments. All right, Commissioner Bernard, what you got?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner McKinley,
I do not have any appointments.
Commissioner Marino,
Thank you. I would like to reappoint Michael Prince to the Business Development Board.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner
McKinley.
McKinley. Okay, I'm losing count. All right, all in favor, all opposed, show it as approved, 5-0. Anything else? You okay, Commissioner Marino? That's it? Okay, Vice Mayor? I got nothing. All right, we can move on. Staff comments, Administrator, what do you got?
Just to remind everyone, we have our budget workshop this evening, starting at 6.
Well, we've got 5 of us left. We can see if we can have a quorum tonight, or, you
Well,
know.
we got.
Okay, all right.
I also missed the opportunity, but I wanted to thank our fire department, Palm Beach County Fire Department, for working with Palm Beach Lakes High School. But I also want to tout that we are working as a region, because not only is our fire rescue department working with Palm Beach Lakes, they're working in conjunction with the City of West Palm Fire Department as well as Riviera Beach Fire Department. And I can tell you, I went to graduation. The fire chief for West Palm Beach was sitting there counting who she's bringing on. So I told her, we're going to have to share this crop. So we are looking forward to that program continuing to grow and then looking at other potential areas in the county.
Very good. Thank you, County Administrator. County Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let you all know that I will be in my office this evening watching the festivities. And if the board should need me, they need only say, County Attorney, where are you? And I will be here. This is the customary way we usually do the budget hearings.
Okay, very good. We will we'll wave to you tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That being said, it's now time for board appointments. No, just commissioner comments. Commissioner McKinley.
Yes, thank you. Just one. Last week, the law enforcement community lost 2 officers in the line of duty. The first one was Tallahassee Police Department Officer Christopher Ferriello. I believe his memorial services are tomorrow. And locally, we lost FWC Senior Investigator Kyle Patterson in a head-on collision on State Road 70. And not only was he part of the law enforcement community, but he was very engaged in the agricultural community and a big friend to many of my constituents. So in memory, I just ask that we lift their family, their friends, and their departments up in prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. I have actually several comments. The first is, and I didn't do a moment of silence, but I would like to request an approval for an off-site proclamation in memory of Tom Corey. He was a very decorated Vietnam War veteran who passed away on June 6th. Tom sustained permanent injuries in combat, and as a quadriplegic was one of the most active supporters of Paralyzed Veterans of America. He was founding president of the Vietnam Veterans of America Palm Beach County chapter and served in leadership roles. His services next week, I'd like to do a proclamation for him.
And the Vice Mayor seconded your request. All in favor, all opposed, show it as approved unanimously.
I'd also like to acknowledge the Honda Classic and Honda Classic Cares for their Week of Philanthropy, which was last week. The Honda Classic, and my lanyard, it says Honda Classic on it. Every PGA Tour event is a nonprofit, and this event generated over $6.5 million in philanthropy that they gave away last week. So I would just like to do a shout out. Some of the agencies that received money were the ELS for Autism, Palm Beach Atlantic University Athletics, the Pediatric Oncology Support Team, the Literacy Coalition, the First Tee of the Palm Beaches, the Nicholas Children's Healthcare Foundation, the Education Foundation, the Youth Singers, the list goes on. And when you're giving $6.5 million away in our community, that's a great thing because we have over 6,000 nonprofits. And then thirdly, I would like to invite everyone who would like to participate. We're having the Hometown Heroes Appreciation Day, which is an event to recognize the Forgotten Soldiers Outreach and the Wounded Veterans Relief Fund. It'll be at the Cox Science Center, and I'll be at the dunk tank from 11 to 11:30. So bring your pitching arm, and hope to see you all there. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Marino. Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Several things. I'd like to request an off-site proclamation declaring June 19th as Emmett Till Day.
I have a second by the Vice Mayor. All in favor, all opposed. It's unanimously approved.
Thank you very much. And just lastly, this Monday will be in observance of Juneteenth. I'd like to wish everyone a happy Juneteenth weekend and look forward to seeing my colleagues and our residents at the Remembrance Day project this Saturday. And finally, I do have to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, including myself.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of District 4, I'd like to request 2 off-site proclamations. One is for June 20th through 26th as Amateur Radio Week, and the other is for June 26th as Holocaust Survivor Day.
I have a second by Commissioner McKinley. All in favor, all opposed. It's approved unanimously.
Great, thank you. And then 2 things. One is this past Saturday, I was working or volunteering with Representative David Silver's office. We did a food giveaway in conjunction with Feeding South Florida over at the Goodwill, or I'm sorry, Salvation Army facility over on Congress. And we were able to, with the generous donations from Feeding South Florida, provide food for 300 families last Saturday morning. And I also look forward to seeing Commissioner Bernard and hopefully others of my colleagues and friends and supporters on the Remembrance Project event on the 18th in Pompey Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I too will be there on June 18th at Pompey Park, and I encourage as many residents as possible to come out and join us. This is certainly a somber occasion, but it's important that, again, we recognize our history and certainly remember, so we shouldn't repeat it, obviously. That being said, we are going to recess until this evening at 6 p.m., and at that point, we are going to take up our first reading of the budget. So we'll see you all later.